My brother Paul's adventures with photography started when he was about 12 years old. Although his initial interest may have been the magic of darkroom chemistry, he soon became captivated by the images themselves and how photography reveals the world. Over the many years that followed, he developed his camera and darkroom skills to show his vision of the world around him. I, on the other hand, had no particular interest in photography as a youth. I received a camera as a gift when I was about 20, and my strongest memory of trying it out was one of disappointment. I was using color film, and there was a long delay between when I would take a picture and when I would finally see the image after sending it off for processing. The world looked beautiful to my eyes when I was out experiencing it, but when the pictures came back, I had no idea what they had to do with that beautiful world I had seen earlier. So in the end, I restricted my use of photography to taking family snapshots. At least I could understand the point of those pictures. It wasn't until I was in my mid-30s that I realized that my mind was different from most other people, and that I don't visualize things that I remember or imagine. I know what things and people look like, but I don't see pictures in my mind. In trying to understand the impact on me of this difference in mental imagery, I wondered if there were also some subtle differences in how I generally processed information in flat images, such as photographs, which I sometimes found confusing. I had no idea of how to explore that notion until some years later, when Paul showed me a new photographic toy he had just bought. It was a digital camera, and I was intrigued by the small display on the back, where the picture was immediately visible. I thought that if I had one of those, I could use it to try to understand the difference between the world in front of my eyes and the very same world as seen in a photograph. And so, at the age of 52, I bought myself a digital camera and went out with it to see what I could learn. It's never too late to start to learn something new. Because of the immediate feedback, digital photography opened up my eyes and my mind in a way that film photography never could have. I talked with Paul about how photographs differed from visual perception, and he explained what was obvious to him. The human eye and brain focus on what is of interest and filter out almost everything else. The camera captures what is there. Subjectivity in photography comes in from the photographer's decisions about framing, timing, and development. After Hurricane Katrina, Paul thought that we needed to find off-site storage for our images, and we both started posting on Flickr, a photo sharing website. My understanding of photography grew as I looked at so many images from so many different photographers. I especially enjoyed looking at Paul's pictures. But as I tried to evaluate what made Paul's photograph so engaging, it struck me that my eye was different, and that I would probably never take pictures that looked anything like his. And I said that to Paul, that the photographs we took were very different. His response surprised me. He said that he wasn't sure that he agreed with that statement, and that he thought that we had a degree of shared sensibility. Well, that was food for thought, and it came to fruition quite a number of years later. By that time, I had had work accepted into juried exhibits and had even joined a small cooperative photography gallery. As I was looking for a theme for one of my annual solo shows in the gallery, I thought it would be fun to explore Paul's idea that he and I shared a certain sensibility. I made a proposal to Paul that we should put together a joint exhibit in which we would have paired images, one from each of us, that we felt in some way spoke to each other. To my delight, Paul agreed. We each selected a number of pictures, and I prepared small prints of each. To start, there were well over 100 images, and we spread them out on a table and started looking for pairs. It was very easy to do. So easy, in fact, that in the end, we had to cut back the number to a set that could actually fit in the gallery. Quite deliberately, we did not hang our pictures in a regularly alternating pattern. The pairs were together, but sometimes his image was on the left and mine on the right. and vice versa. In some instances, the connection was fairly straightforward. For example, two views of the sidewalks of New York. In one case, it was mostly about looking down and being amused by the spectacle on the floor. We both often photograph inanimate objects that, to us, have a great deal of presence, to the point of almost seeming animate. Sometimes it was a similarity in shape. In one case, there were faces with very similar shapes, but in very different materials. Tortured limbs that called for attention. Lots of images of water for both of us. The reactions of different viewers were interesting. Some thought that all of the images could have been created by one person. In one case, at least, that was probably right. Both of us take pictures of similar subjects to these two that connect through viewpoint and shape. But those who knew us well could mostly see the subtle differences in framing and processing. At least one person who wanted to figure it out worked his way around the gallery pair by pair, and then told me that he felt that he started to see what distinguished Paul's pictures from mine, and got better at guessing which was whose as he progressed. The similarities and differences between siblings often raise the question of how much of what we are and do depends on nature versus nurture. With a sample size of 2, we can't say much in response to that question, but I've given the matter some thought. I have quite a number of photographer friends, but I don't think I could so easily set up a similar exhibit with any of them. Are the similarities in our sibling visions due to common genes or to having grown up in a specific household with parents who had a strong interest in the arts, and especially Oriental art? We cannot say. However, we did have fun finding commonalities and putting them up on a wall to share with others.